So Erin Ryan is an animal welfare scientist and co-founder and co-director of Animals in the Room, an international collaborative project that seeks to include animals as individual subjects in decision-making processes. Her work explores how technology, arts, psychology, and ethically grounded participatory methods can be wrapped around scientific understanding of animals to make non-human animals viscerally present in decision-making and amplify their perspectives.
Thank you. Okay, good to see you all. As Jonah said, I'm Erin. I am co-founder and co-director of Animals in the Room, or AIR, which I do with Melanie Challenger here. I have already been introduced, so I'm an animal welfare scientist, but just to say my workbooks, both I spent years studying the behavior and communication of animal, but then shifted my attention towards the human dimension, looking at the psychology of perspective taking. And Melanie is a writer on the history of ideas and is also a bioethicist. So we started working on these ideas in 2021, and we are just a newly minted nonprofit in 2025. In brief, AIR brings animals from corals to great apes directly into decisions, and in doing so, we hope rekindles human connection to the living world. So how did we come to this, wanting to include animals in decision making? You know, for a long time we know that most decisions about the world have been made in a room with only humans in it. And they brought us to where we are now. Don't need to tell any of you, we're a world on the brink of environmental collapse, where none of the many rooms where humans are in can see a way forward. So on the left we see this incredible rise in farmed animals and humans, and an astounding decrease in the biodiversity of wild animals. And if the data alone was compelling to us, we would hope to see something different. But when we look at here on the right, this is meat production. We see that it's just on a staggering increase. So there's something's getting lost in translation. So these graphs, we say, tell one story. But data alone has not been enough to inspire the imagination and transformation and empathy and connection that these crises demand. And that's because we cannot care for what we don't connect to. So at Animals in the Room, we've decided that we're going to invite animals in. So here I have our proxy of a gorilla. So again, we recognize that decisions are made in absentia, and that representing animals in decision making is challenging politically, technically, and ethically. And what we do is we work to address all of the dimensions of this challenge. This is just showing you one dimension, which is, I've chosen a gorilla here as a digital proxy, but our work asks how we can viscerally include animals who would most likely, in almost all cases, prefer greater distance from us than greater proximity in the rooms that we're making decisions in. So we work with communities and governments, NGOs and businesses to make animals visible in all of their dimensions as substantive stakeholders and as subjects of justice. Where work is relevant to the audience today is that we both work with the data coming directly from the animals themselves and data on the lives of animals from the communities that work with them and are in relationship with them. And we use AI and tech tools to meet the challenge of the representation of animal welfare and interest in decision making. So we use proxies, like you saw with the gorilla there, as bridges to the interests of animals, but not as substitutes. And I think that's kind of the trick, that we're using the very tech that is in part distancing us from them to bring us back into connection to their interests. And we embed them in facilitated participatory design-making processes to invite reconnection with real animals rather than disembodied data. But just to say that the digital mind's language does tempt us to mistake data for consciousness. While we at this point, have no evidence that sentience flows from computation. So I just want to signal towards the linguistic piece, because we know that language shapes our perception. It shapes our expectations and how we interpret the data. So when we start with the metaphor of digital minds, we run the risk of reducing life to what the machines can parse. Thank you. And we must remember that metaphors like digital minds can direct our attention toward what is measurable and away from what is relational and what is embodied. So our work indeed uses AI and other tech, but it's also very concerned with keeping the ethical lens wide and attending from the outset to the first principle thinking that we bring to our use of AI and tech to help us understand the interests and perspectives of animals. So just a little nutshell there of our work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, really exciting. I was curious about how much of the process you see as happening in conversations that are policy-oriented, detail-heavy, rationalistic with policy writers and legislators or things like that, and how many of them are really, as you alluded to, more creative, storytelling, narrative, popular culture.
So how many of our processes are policy?
Yeah, do you use them both?
Yeah.
How does that look for you?
Yeah, it's really, we are using both. Certainly, you know, we want our work to be scientifically grounded so that we're able to influence policy in a way that's trustworthy for people. But also, especially when we're talking about animals and their interests, especially ones that we're distant from, minds of others are more readily perceptible through storytelling. So we do wrap it in that to bring people closer. We're sort of all guns firing, if you will. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you think because humans don't represent animals so well, AI in the future could represent animals? So could we really have the elephant in the room represented by an AI?
Yeah, I mean, this is, our work is fundamentally experimental, but this is part of what we're trialing. We're not limited to doing it solely with AI as a representative for animals, but certainly our goal is we will always see the world through ourselves as humans, and whatever we create and engage with, even if it's that AI proxy, it's going to be done through our human lens. But to the best of our ability, we're trying to attend to the biases and strip away as much of ourselves from the representations that AI is using. So I think it's an empirical question, and it comes from sort of analyzing the processes as we go in different contexts and iterations.
Hi, thank you. As you seek to make animals increasingly visible across institutions, policy, businesses, etc., in today's world, which organizations, groups, societies do you feel have been most responsive to these efforts, whether they be big or small?
For AIR specifically, for us?
Yes, exactly.
We've had a lot of really diverse interests. I would say from the UNDP is quite interested. And then we have institutions that are interested and businesses that are interested in going through processes with us just to foreground other perspectives and trying to come into contact with novel solutions to the problems that they face. So I think it's been across the board.
Can I ask one follow-up? Which is, of those institutions, like, what do you think is the motivating driver behind that institution saying, yes, we actually care about that? It might be leadership, but I'm curious if there's any other trends.
I mean, again, I think we are still in that scoping phase of understanding motivations, and I think that they're diverse, those motivations. Some is because we are facing crises that are so dire that business as usual just isn't bringing us into contact with the solutions that we need. We're just, the arrows are driving in the wrong direction. So I think that we're at a time where people are willing to experiment with really radically different ways of doing things. That's sort of best case scenario. Otherwise, you know, we'll have to sort of go through some of our real world projects to find out what the motivations are in the end.